Let's cut the bullshit. We've got straight up marketing advice. You should use it.
Just drop the jargon.
Adam and Simon's bullshit busters.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Adam and Simon Bullshit Busters. I'm Simon Batchelor,
I am Adam Bastock.
and this week we are going to be talking about branded and non-branded traffic, i.e. what words are people typing into search to find your website? What can this tell us, and why does this matter? Now, this is episode number 3 in a 5-part series of metrics you should be measuring to make sure your website is working for you. So your website isn't just sat there costing you money, being a nice pretty thing that you pay to be online. It's generating you leads, it's generating you sales, and you can measure where all of that comes from. We've done 2 episodes already, so if you want to find those episodes, I'm going to put a card up now to the previous episode, and also there'll be a card that follows that with a link to the first episodes. Do check those out first before you watch this video. So today we are going to be talking about branded and non-branded traffic. Now this, on the face of it, sounds like a rather technical explanation, but actually it's simpler than you think. So Adam, do you want to give us a quick rundown of what branded and non-branded means?
Yeah, so firstly, just to clarify, this is only for traffic that's coming from Google. So this is, going back to the first episode, we're only talking about organic traffic here. So people that are typing into Google and then finding you. So branded traffic is traffic that has your brand name somewhere within that query. So if I'm looking for Homebase, I might search for Homebase paint or Homebase delivery costs or Homebase something else. Non-branded traffic would be where I would just searching for a broad term that does not have any kind of brand identity to it. So if I was just searching for red paint or red paint delivered near me, stuff like that. The importance in the comparison here, and we always measure the branded versus non-branded traffic as a percentage. So we want to be able to see what percentage of traffic is finding us without typing in our brand terms. Now, this is where it gets a little bit, not complicated, but listen carefully, I guess. I think the the branded traffic percentage, you want to keep that at quite a low percentage. The reason why I say percentage there and not number is because you can have a large amount of people typing in your brand name, as long as you're also balancing that with a larger people who aren't typing in your branded terms. The more people aren't typing in the branded terms, there tend to be newer people coming into your website all the time, and therefore your business is more sustainable. So someone who has a 20% branded traffic kind of input versus an 80% non-branded traffic input is getting 80% of their traffic every month from people who have probably never heard of their brand before. Quite a lot of the time I see that in e-commerce companies that are very high growth, where they've basically fueled it through PR campaigns, TV advertising, and and billboards. It always flips the other way, and the problem then is you might get 80% of the people typing in Homebase to try and find you, and then only 20% of people who are finding you through other terms. But then as soon as you stop doing that brand recognition work, you don't really have a business. That whittles away and disappears. Whereas if you're creating content at a level such as blog posts and ranking category pages and ranking collections and ranking product pages, then you've got a much bigger surface area of your website where people are coming into your site every month to try and find you. And the reason why this is such an important metric that people don't tend to measure is because, one, it's a little bit odd to get your head around. You just kind of think that all traffic's good, whereas different traffic in Google is going to have a different value to it. But also because it's a really kind of good way of looking at sustainability. So whenever I'm doing an SEO audit for competitors and looking at what they're doing, I always look at this metric because it's a really good example of how active are they and how kind of responsive are they in their search engine optimization kind of stuff. Have they just focused on a couple of key terms that only represent a small percentage of their overall traffic? So for a healthy company, I always look for a high percentage of non-branded traffic. Does all that make sense, Simon, or have I just
I think it does. Essentially, what I heard there is when people are typing in your brand name, i.e. the name of your company, is because they already know who your brand is. So that means they've either seen an advert you've put out, maybe they follow you on social, maybe they're on your mailing list. Those people are going to Google and thinking, I want to know about this company, so they type in the name of the company, they find your website. So that's good, but it relies on continual reminding of who your brand is for that to work. And that takes time, money, and effort, whether you're paying for ads or whether you're doing it just through your own email marketing or just purely through recommendation or whatever. Branded terms are still very good. They are bringing you, people who want to know about your brand.
Exactly.
However, if we want to find new customers who've never heard of us before, they're not going to know what the name of our company is. So they're not going to sit there and type in the name of our brand, for example, because they don't know it yet. They're going to type in the outcome that they're looking for. And that outcome they're looking for, the problem they're trying to solve, maybe a question they have,
Exactly.
all of those terms that they type in, that's where you can win traffic. Now, crucially, this is a sort of a longer term strategy, I guess, when you're thinking about how to make this work for you, because this goes beyond just optimizing your page for the things and the features and the transactional level of your business. So, for example, if you're an accountant and you've optimized for accountants in Brighton, then you will come up when someone types in accountants in Brighton. But if you are Bastock and Batchelor Accounting Limited, then, and people are only finding you by typing in Bastock and Batchelor Accounting, then we don't have any traction when people are looking for accountants. We only have it when they know who we are. So it's, I guess, that element of, although it might feel like a lot of work to improve the non-branded traffic, it will in the long term bring you new customers without you actually having to spend a lot of money to maintain it. You will have to obviously invest, as we talk about a lot, in content to kind of meet those search terms up front. But this is how we measure it working. So when previously we've spoken about making content for long tail keywords, you may have heard of talk about that before. All of that sort of traffic, that's non-branded traffic. And that, I think, is the key to why this metric has made our top 5, perhaps where it wouldn't normally have in most people's top 5, but actually it is a really important metric.
I think just to explain very briefly here how you actually measure this as a kind of, if you do want to look into this a bit more, because this is all looking at purely organic search traffic, you need to look in Google Search Console. Now, I spoke before about Google Analytics, and Google Analytics is very good at telling you where everyone is coming to your website from everywhere. Google Search Console, only shows you traffic from within Google. And it does that in a far in far more detail than Google Analytics does. So what we want to do with that report, and this is, again, it can be a little bit rough and ready, it doesn't have to be precise. You just take the amount of keywords that you're ranking for, the amount of traffic that contains your keywords, or your brand name, sorry. I'm going to start that a little bit again. So basically, you open Google Search Console, and then you take the amount of traffic in terms of the clicks you're getting from your brand keywords, such as home base, and then you might split that out to be anything that contains the word home or anything that contains the word base, and then that will just filter all of your keyword traffic down to just that segment, and then do the same where it's not containing that. So Farrow and Ball is probably quite a good example here, because Ball is completely different to what they sell, which is paint. So it's quite a good keyword there where you can go, well, show me all the traffic that came to our site using a search term that did not contain Ball. And therefore you just get all of that traffic, write that down, and then divide that and do the maths on the inverse. It can be a little bit confusing and rough ready to try and get that exact metric, but I think it's really important to go through and have an idea from and just work on it every month until you've got a more accurate system of reporting on it, because, as you say, this is looking at long-term growth. This isn't going to change anything in the next month, 3 months, maybe not even 6 months. But if you're looking to grow your company over the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, this is how you're going to establish dominance in that industry, is by reaching out to people who don't know who you are on those kind of commercial terms that are non-branded. That puts you at such a heavy advantage over competitors who are then only competing on their brand awareness, because that means they're going to have to rely on media spend in order to get to the same point where you're at without any media spend on a monthly basis. So investing in that kind of SEO infrastructure is really beneficial.
Absolutely. I mean, if you take my example earlier of accountants,
Yeah.
if you've got to bid on Google Ads for accountants in Brighton just to be at the top of the page, that's going to cost you thousands of pounds a month.
Yeah.
If you can just be the top result for accountants in Brighton, that's worth thousands of pounds a month. You don't have to spend in ads because you're already at the top for free. So
Yeah.
yes, you may have to spend a few £1,000s over a year getting content written, copyrighted, whatever you're going to invest in that content, but it will pay off because those key terms, those terms that people type in, those non-branded terms, are exactly what's going to bring you new business. So
Exactly.
I think also just to link this back to what we spoke about in the last video about this conversion, once you've got those people in, then you can actually attribute a value to it. You can start to say, well, actually, this search term for accountants in Brighton got us 5 leads, which has generated us this much business. This is where all these metrics start to link together, because once you can start to connect the dots, you can really start to see, do you know what, we spent £1,200 on copywriting these blogs and they've earned us approximately, £10,000 worth of business this year. So that's great.
Exactly.
Let's do more of that. In fact, let's do twice as much next year, compared to we did sponsored tweets. We spent £2,000 on sponsored tweets and we got 3 clicks and 1 conversion, and it was someone who was asking if a team member still worked there.
Yeah.
That was a waste of money. Let's not do that again. Unless you know where all this traffic and stuff is coming from, you can't measure it. So I think just to summarize the branded, non-branded is, even if you don't want to do the maths and you're not going to look at it in that as much detail as we said, just get Google Search Console installed. Again, there'll be a link in the description on how to do that. It's super simple to get set up. Once it's on there, just go to the keywords, the inbound keywords list, and just look for yourself. Just scroll down and go, that's got my brand name in it. Oh, that hasn't. That's interesting. Why did someone type that in and end up on my website? That's interesting. Why did someone type that in? You might find questions hidden in there you didn't even know people had. And maybe you could make a whole landing page, a whole blog just around those questions.
Perfect.
Because
It's really good advice.
you don't necessarily need to do the maths and the numbers and the spreadsheet and the tracking. You could just have a look. If you've only got 2 or 3 pages on your website, you're not going to have a lot of data to go through. So it'd be fascinating to see. But also you might find that you're actually getting hits for stuff that you don't do at all, and it's just really odd. That's also worth digging into a little bit more, just to see why would people be looking for that? What is it? Start to think about it. Is there a way I can utilize this? Is someone who's searching for that? Is there a way I can help them? If someone keeps landing on your site through confusion, can you point them to the right place with a page on your website? It just means you've helped them, and they'll remember you because you were the site that pointed them in the right direction. So there's lots of different things you can do with Search Console. It also has loads of other tools, and one day we'll do a top 5 things to do in Search Console. But for now, that is a great place to start.
I think this would be my number one thing to do in Search Console anyway, because it is a really good.
Yeah.
Again, for me, it's just a really good health check for your company. And if I'm looking at working with clients, it's one of the things I kind of look at before deciding whether to go ahead. And also, from an investor point of view, if you're looking at that from an e-commerce point of view, investment's really good for. Investors will look at this to understand what your kind of growth trajectory is looking like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
over-reliance on advertising is a real weakness for a business.
Yeah.
Anybody who's looking to invest in a business, if you say, oh yeah, we spend, £5,000 a month on ads and our, content budget is 50 quid or non-existent, they're just going to walk away, because that's not a business. That's just funding Google or Facebook. That's not a proper strategy. So this is what's going to get you out of that. This is what's going to start to change back round to that long-term organic growth, which is so vital for growing a business long-term. So that is all for this episode. Next week, we are going to be talking about mobile versus desktop. So why does it matter whether someone's looking at your site on their phone or on their desktop? What can this tell us about our customers, and how can you optimize your website based on this traffic? All of the answers to those questions will be in next week's video. If you don't want to miss that, hit the subscribe button now and you will be notified as soon as a new video comes out. So if you're listening on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, just hit that follow or subscribe button. And if you're on YouTube, give us a quick click on the subscribe button just there. Really does help us out. And until next time, we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Just drop the job.
Adam and Simon.